Hey guys, I'm back. My favorite days, recording days. I am your host, Chavie Brooke. I'm excited for this episode. We have an amazing guest. Her name is Mimi Minsky. You might know her or have heard of her from her beautiful writing. She writes like a dream. She really writes from her core. And she's a professional writer, and she writes on Instagram and Substack, and you can follow her. And she is just somebody that is embodied. Our conversation was a delight. We talk about all sorts of things. We definitely talk about plant medicine, which was a really fun discussion. Can't wait for you to hear it. And this conversation is a really good example of what I love to do on the podcast. It's really about having the conversations with interesting people to sit and hash out and talk about experiences, our lives, the unexpected that happens, because we all have the unexpected. And I'm just so curious about that part of our lives. The unexpected things that happen that lead us down a certain path, that make us who we are. A podcast, a lot of times there's this expectation that it's like an interview. And my podcast is way more conversational. So you'll also hear from me and my experiences and my stories, and you'll hear from my guests. It's like listening in to a coffee date or like a fun hang on the couch. And I just wanted you to know that that's what this is all about. And doing this with Mimi it really, really felt like that. It just felt like talking to a friend, and it was the best. So I hope you enjoy Mimi Minsky. Today's episode is dedicated by the Ausch family in honor of the Isru Chag wedding of their son Mordechai to his Kala Sheva Peril. May they merit to build an eternal edifice among Klal Yisrael with an abundance of blessing in all aspects, and may the entire family know only simchas, happiness today and forever. By the way, guys, let's talk about sponsorships for a second. If you want to sponsor, please reach out. If you're a business, if you are just somebody who wants to sponsor something for a special occasion, for a yard site, for a birthday, if you just love the podcast and love what I'm doing and you want to be a part of it, please do. Please do. I think it's not a secret that podcasts are funded through sponsorships and advertisements. There's no secret way to go about it. And I would love to partner with all of you and any of you. And it's great. It's fun. If you're a business, I talk about you on the pod. I post you on Instagram. You get some nice exposure. If you're just somebody who wants to shout somebody out, or you're just somebody who loves and appreciates what's going on over here on Totally Unexpected, please reach out. All my contact information is in the show notes. And we're very grateful to all our partnerships and all our sponsorships. I saw on your Instagram stories today that you got very little sleep. And I don't know, I relate. That's how my night was too.
That makes sense.
Yeah. My daughter, Chanalea, actually all my kids struggle with sleep, but she struggles a lot. Like it's a stage for her right now in specific. And she woke up at 12:30, came to my room at 1, said I couldn't fall asleep. So she came into my bed. And then 45 minutes later, she's like, I'm going back to my bed. And then my husband woke up at 5 and she was in the playroom coloring and had not gone back to sleep. So she was up from 12:30 till the morning. 6:45, my husband thinks that she's going to get dressed in her room and she's fast asleep before school.
This is all sounding very relatable.
Really?
I always,
Oh
whenever
my
you
gosh.
post your daughter, I
Yes.
always think that she reminds me of our Anya.
Yeah.
They're on a similar
They're kindred
vibration
spirits for sure.
for sure.
So I was like, there's no way that I'm waking her up now. So
Yeah,
I let her sleep. She woke up at like 9 o'clock and then I took her to school. But the sleep thing, I don't know. I'm also struggling with sleep
me too.
because a lot of reasons, but also like I don't like to go to bed early. I like the nighttime is like I like to stay up.
Me too.
The house is quiet. I'm just
Me
like
too.
I'm not a big sleeper. Like I don't love to sleep. So sleeping for me is like done as a necessity. Like it's not like I wait all day. I wait all day to get into bed, right? But not to
Me
sleep.
too. We wait all day to get into bed so we could lay in bed and scroll on our phones and zen out and have the
Yes.
quiet. And then our
Yes.
husbands are like, "Didn't you say you were tired?" And we're like, "We are,
Yeah.
but like we're doing our thing
We're
that we
doing
need
our
to do.
thing.
We're
So
regulating."
yeah, exactly. So like I go to sleep too late and then I wake up too early and then all the interruptions with the kids. And I think with health and healing, sleep is such a huge piece to it. And that's like the last thing
Me too.
for me to implement and change. I don't want to. Like I don't want to go to bed earlier.
Me either.
And I want to not have to get out of bed early either. Like I want this like,
I know. I just, like I have friends that get into bed at 8 o'clock and they're out for the night. And
yeah,
I just don't relate to that person.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't, I wish I could and I should, but like I don't do it.
I
Me
know.
either.
So like when you're like working on your health and I have health issues that I work on and then the sleep thing comes up and like I'm pretty disciplined. I'm really good at doing the right thing and changing bad habits and whatever. The sleep thing I am hanging on to like I cannot give it up. So
Yeah,
that's where we're at. Sleep deprived and proud.
I feel you. I feel you on that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
My Anya woke up last night too. She woke up, then she went back to sleep. Then she woke up. She was like positive there was like a spider in her room. She was crying. It was a whole thing.
The
But
whole
she went
thing.
back to sleep right next to me. So
Yeah. How old is she? She's similar to Hanalea's age?
she's 6. How old
Yeah.
is?
So Hanalea is 7.5. Yeah. They are just, whew.
Do things change at 7? Tell me.
I don't think you want to hear what I have to say. I
I don't
think
want to hear.
it
No.
gets, for me, it got worse.
Okay.
7 to me, 7, 8 for almost all of my kids were a really difficult age.
Hmm.
I don't really know why, but that
Okay.
7, 8-year-old age is just,
Maybe it's like an in-between age.
I don't know. I wish I understood, but I'm noticing like I would never be able to tell you, but I'm just noticing the pattern. Especially with my last two. Like it's definitely things come to a head at this age for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah. I don't know if that's helpful or not. Anyway, we've solved all the sleep issues. Now, okay, so I'm really happy and so excited to have you here because lots of reasons, but we have communicated over social media for the last few years. We always connect on really impactful, deep, foundational things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't really know you that well. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited
Okay.
to get to know you more. And everything that you post, I read. And from what you share, there's like so much there. Like I have so many things I want to ask you and so many things I want to explore with you. You're a beautiful writer.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so
I
much.
always love the way that you express yourself. I love your way of thinking, the way you're like, I just feel like I
Thank
relate
you.
to the way your brain works. And it's, yeah, so I'm really excited for you to be here. So thank you for
I'm
making the time.
really excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I feel so honored and excited.
So I like to you start, a little bit from the beginning of
Okay.
who you are, because I'm really interested in who you are, not only in what you do and what you have accomplished, but like, who are you? And so I know a little bit basics, like you grew up in Florida. We actually discovered last night that your mother and my mother-in-law were like childhood best friends.
Like I think she's my mom's oldest friend
Yes.
that she's ever
Yes.
had, like her first friend.
First
Yeah.
friend.
Yes.
Okay, so the crazy thing is like, I know that. Like, I know who your
Yeah,
mother is. Like, she's part of my husband's family's life in a very big way.
totally.
I had
Yes.
no idea that you were her daughter.
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
that's the crazy thing. So that it's always super fun to find those connections. So I know you grew up in Florida. You live in New Haven now, right?
Yeah. New Haven, Connecticut.
Okay, amazing. So I want to hear a little bit about childhood growing up. I know that you had like a really big, life-changing, tragic child, like you were a child, right? When you lost your brother.
Yeah.
Was he older than you?
Yeah. So I grew, like you said, I grew up in Miami. I grew up in Miami Beach. I had a great childhood, kind of idyllic when I think about it now. I had a beautiful group of friends. All our parents knew each other. They came from different backgrounds, but there was like that trust and the shared values. And it was a really mixed community. And it was
Mm,
beautiful, like bike riding after school and constant
yes.
sleepovers and play dates and like very, very tight knit group of friends. And now I look back and I think how rare it was that I had, such a great upbringing and two wonderful, caring, present parents
Hmm.
and this beautiful life. And the tragedy that you're talking about is that when I was almost 10, I went to school and I came home that day and I found out that my brother, my oldest brother, had passed away. It was like right before my 10th birthday. He was 19 and it was like in between that time of coming home for Rosh Hashanah and then going back to school. So he was home and I remember I even like made him this cutout Apple card and he had a corkboard in his room and I wrote like a little note and I stuck it on the wall and I was so proud of it. And he came home and he was unpacking. Sometimes I wonder if these are actual concrete memories or
Yeah.
something trauma did,
Yeah.
but this is what I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah.
And I had found out that he passed away in his sleep and he didn't wake up one morning. And that kind
Wow.
of was the start of a very different life
I can
or
imagine.
just mindset growing up, everything.
Okay, so first of all, I have a hard time, and I'm sure everybody who hears, and especially you, like that sudden, like unexpected, that doesn't happen so often. Like that's something that it happens, but it's not the common way,
No,
especially for a young, healthy teenager at their prime. Like that, like how
totally.
do you wrap your brain around that? Like 1 second here, 1 second not. There was no illness, no warning, no. I feel like that in itself is such a huge
Yeah.
additional piece to the trauma.
Yeah. I mean, I was so young. Only as an adult did I really like grieve and understand like the impact of what
Hmm.
happened
Hmm.
and how it impacted my family. But very young, I mean, he had like bright, flaming red hair. He was like larger than life personality. He had like a very clear path. Like he was going to be probably like a shliach and have all these kids. And he was such a big personality.
Hmm.
So it was a shock. And also, my parents are such strong people
Yeah.
and trauma has a funny way of like your body goes into this protective sort of cocoon.
Yeah.
And it tells you, like, we have to survive this time. So, like, we're just going to put away all these memories and you're just going to like get
Mm,
through it. And then we'll like pick it up later. So, I had so many blanks as a child. I
wow.
had so much to like figure out on my own and figure out how adults were feeling, look at like really hard emotions, see a lot of tears, a lot of heartache, so much grief,
Hmm.
and try to like understand it. I make sense of it myself. Also, I'm the youngest in my family,
Oh, okay.
and I didn't get it like possibly, my older siblings did.
Right.
So there was just a lot of like moving through it. And I thought I was very adult in that space, but really I did miss a lot of things that were happening
Yeah.
naturally.
Yeah.
And I even had actual blanks, which I only filled in later on in life. But we
Right.
can get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you think the approach that your parents took was just like shut it down? Did you talk about it at all? Was there processing, or was more like you said, survival mode? We have to just get through this. And a lot of you being like left to your own devices?
I think my parents really did the best that they could
Oh,
do.
100%.
Therapy was so new. It was such
Mm-hmm.
a like non-thing at that time. You really only went to therapy if like you really had problems.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but that's when you went to therapy.
Yeah.
But my parents did want to take me to see people. They did try to get relatives to talk to me, and I didn't want to talk.
Mm.
In fact, I have a very clear memory of being in New York on President Street in my uncle and aunt's house. And somebody had picked up for me like this big art, kind of this velvety pattern thing that you fill in with markers. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
coloring it. And my cousin knocked on the door and she was like, "Do you want to talk?" Like people tried, I think.
Mm.
But I guess I was very little.
Yeah.
Also, he passed away in September, and my birthday is in November. And I remember my birthday party after. My parents made sure, obviously, to have a birthday party for me. I remember the gift that I got.
Mm.
So it was a very big jumble of things. And then,
Yeah.
like, bits and pieces as the years go by, come back to you.
Yeah. When did you think that you started really trying to process that grief and facing it, kind of going back and really
Mm.
looking at it face to face? When did that start happening?
So I think over time, it came out in different ways. I
Yeah.
think that after my brother passed away, my grandmother also passed away, my mother's mother, and
Oh
then
gosh.
her grandfather passed away, and then her grandmother passed away. And it was like a melting pot of grief.
Yeah.
And I think when my great grandmother passed away, I had like an overload of emotions. Again, I must have been like 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then over my high school years, it came out in different ways. I was like life of the party. I was a class clown.
Mm-hmm.
I did anything I could do to get like a laugh. I got, sent out of all my classes.
Mm.
I was like a reckless teenager. I struggled with eating. I loved when things were neat and orderly. My family used to make fun of me that I used to like straighten the rug and the picture frames.
Right. It was like finding a sense of control.
Yes, anything that I could like cling
Anything you
to.
could. Yeah.
Yes. Of course,
Wow.
I didn't understand all that. That was like a subconscious
Of
thing going
course.
on.
Of course. It's
Yeah,
always so fascinating to look back when we're older and we have more information
of
and
course.
we're like looking back at things that we've done and we're like, "Oh, and that's kind of what inner child work is, going
Yeah,
back and being like, "Oh, I understand why you were doing the things that
of
you
course.
were doing." And then hopefully as adults we can actually do that with our children. In my experience, when my kids are having a certain behavior, because I'm the adult and because I have knowledge and I
Of course.
know what's happening, like they don't understand it necessarily. Their subconscious is working overtime to protect them. And I can be like, okay, the behavior's not okay, but I can
Understand.
understand and see why it's happening. And there's
Yeah,
always our bodies and our minds and our whole system. It's so smart. I
so
always am
smart.
fascinated by what lengths our body and our mind goes to protect us.
It's like it's totally fused.
Yeah.
It's like one thing. I even remember being 12 and my mother saying, "Oh, she's crying so much because she's now like grieving my brother Shmuley."
Mm,
And I
mm,
even remember as a kid hearing that and being like, "Okay, that makes
that makes
sense." But like,
sense.
and me saying, "No, I'm not doing that." But
Right. Right. You're not going to tell me why I'm being
right,
emotional right now. It's nothing to do.
right. And I think that in certain ways, I was extremely immature. And in other ways, I very clearly understood adults
hmm
and people and like
hmm
their emotions and why they did things.
And you also were experienced something that most children don't have to experience at such a young age,
Yeah.
a loss and a grief. I don't know, tell me if you relate to this, but I think children who have gone through a significant trauma oftentimes exhibit a really intense maturity in one areas and then a real intense immaturity in other areas.
Yeah. I mean, you'll often hear like a comedian say, "I struggled with addiction, I'm now sober." And it's usually they went through some kind of trauma as a kid. And on one hand, they get people, they know how to tell
hmm
all the jokes, they know how to get
hmm
inside the psyche, they
hmm
understand people, but like they also, they became very reckless. So I
Yes.
relate to that. Yeah.
Yes. I wonder where the recklessness comes from. Is it just like a pushing boundaries thing? Is it just like how far can I push life? Because on the one hand, you're saying like you were needing all that control, whether
Hmm.
it's with your eating or, the environment around you, but then reckless behavior is almost the opposite of that. Where does that come from?
So I think that I was also the youngest, and it was hard at times. Like there was a period of time where I was alone in my house with my parents,
Mm-hmm.
and like everyone was out, everyone, and it was just, my sister and my brother, and it was
Yeah.
just me. And my friends were my everything. And I wanted to have fun. I wanted to have a
Mm-hmm.
good time.
Mm-hmm.
I never wanted to disappoint my parents. That was always a very like, I don't want them to be disappointed. And I was totally disappointing them, but I don't want to disappoint them.
Yeah.
I don't want them to find out about this because it will break their hearts, but I want to push the boundaries. I want to have fun. I like trouble. I want to have a good time.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a push and pull,
Yeah.
like a dichotomy sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Totally.
Now I look back and I'm like, I don't think I would be that high school person that I was. I think I would be obsessed with learning.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would be soaking up all the information. I think I would have wanted to collect degrees on my wall.
Yeah.
It'd be so different than I am now, but it's so clear that that was like a response, a very
Yeah.
long-winded response.
Yeah. So how was your relationship with your mother throughout all of this? Did it get rocky at times?
I mean, not in any like not normal way,
Yeah.
like very regular.
Teenage, yeah, regular
Teenage angst, a lot of
developmental.
angst. We are very close. We're still very close. Still speak to her all the time.
Hmm.
It's still like one of my most valuable, sacred relationships.
Of course.
It's definitely changed over the years, of course, through life experiences.
Hmm.
But I don't think it ever got rocky to the point of like, I'm not talking to you anymore, or, probably a lot of slamming doors and yelling, but
Right. Which is
nothing out of the
pretty
ordinary.
typical of,
And I think she was very worried at a point. I think she was
yeah.
worried about my eating. She was worried about me going to Israel to seminary, like all the normal things, but also just a little bit extra, maybe.
Was your eating struggles, were they like under the radar? Were you keeping them a secret or was it something that was being noticed?
So I kept it pretty under the radar. I think it all started, I went away for the California traveling program, which is like you're on a tour bus, you're going through the West Coast, and
What
you're
is this, like
hiking.
15?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. I don't think it exists anymore. I
Yeah.
think something else
Yeah.
has one. And you're traveling a lot, you're hiking, you're very active. And I think I came back and I was very thin.
Mm,
And I started to get a lot of compliments like, you look
hmm.
great. Oh my gosh, keep it up. All the things that people were saying at that time that we were living.
Hmm.
And I definitely soaked that up. And I liked the way I felt when I was very thin. And I kept going like that. I think it really only caught wind when I think after seminary, in between seminary, like when girls typically go home for the Pesach break, I went home and we had a meal with my family, possibly a Seder. And I went to the bathroom after the meal and I made myself throw up, and my sister was standing outside the door because I
Mm,
guess they suspected that something was going on.
wow.
And then it was like nutritionists and all the things. And I still think I kept it under wraps after that for a while.
Yeah.
And then I really only started to heal after I got pregnant with my first son, with my first child.
Wow. So it continued after you got married.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think that anyone who's struggled with disordered eating, it's really not like a one stop, oh, I'm good
Now
now.
we're done. Yeah,
Like, I
totally.
don't believe that for a second when people are like, oh, like, but then it got better, like immediately. I don't think it goes away.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of always a dull little noise in the background. I think all women have struggled with eating in any which way. And it was like a cycle because after you get better, so to speak, there's the binging and then the fasting and
Yeah.
then the this diet and the that diet. And it's like a roller coaster. There's like
Yeah.
all the things.
Well, it's just so fascinating because the podcast that we just dropped on Monday was with eating, food, weight, holistic coach. I don't even know her title. She has like a million titles.
Yeah.
But it's so true what you're saying. First of all, I've yet to meet a woman who hasn't had something with food or their body.
Yeah.
And the world that we live in, it's like you can't really escape it. There's always something in your face. There's always something going on that's promoting a certain body type or way of eating, even if it's couched in like healthy eating. And it's also super fascinating because her story, I don't know if you heard it, but her story also had to do with losing a sibling. And yeah, she lost a sibling. I think she was around your age, but the sibling she lost was like a baby. And again, like things weren't being talked about. Like she was trying to figure out all those emotions, and she found the one place that she found comfort in was food. And then, it obviously spirals into like, okay, so if you're finding comfort in food, you're obviously getting big. And then it turned into this huge thing that just overtakes your life. And the eating thing is so hard because like it's not like any other addiction where you could just stop. You can't cold turkey stop eating, right?
Yeah, especially if you're a Jew. Like even a non-religious Jew, you're constantly sitting by a table with food.
Yeah, and you somehow have to find a way to make peace with this thing that you need to survive, but also is the source of so much angst and emotion around it. So would you say that being pregnant was motivating, or bringing a child into the world was motivating to start that healing process?
Yeah, I think that by virtue, like I was pregnant and I was hungry. And once you gain like a little bit of weight, you kind of like stop caring as much or being so controlled. And it kind of became very regular. There were definitely like ups and down moments after, especially after having the baby. There was like a bris and there was pressure to be thin again. And there's all these things that come up, especially being in the Jewish world. We have so many weddings and bar mitzvahs and events and
holidays.
And there's such a common thread of women saying like, I want to fit into that, or I have a wedding tomorrow. I'm just not eating today because I have a wedding tonight.
Ivy. Yeah. Yeah.
It's so common. And today there's Ozempic and lots of other things in the world that are coming to the forefront. And I kind of feel like in a weird way, it's like a resurgence of like
100%.
the 90s.
Yes. I was just going to say, I'm like, if you grew up in the 90s, and I think we both did.
Yeah.
We grew up with an extreme diet culture, and the value was the thinner, the better, right?
Totally.
And over the years, it moved into like body positivity, and people started to see more body types being represented. Obviously, there's always more work to do, but in the 90s, there was no such thing as opening up a magazine and seeing somebody oversized too. Like it just didn't happen.
No, never.
And then it started to like evolve, and now I feel like we're kind of back where we were, the value of like the super thin body and the fashion and all these things that are in our face. I feel the same way. I'm like, it's coming back and it's scary. Does it scare you?
It does and it doesn't, because I think that it's always been there. It's kind of just been hiding and disguised as other things.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, there's like body positivity and like intuitive eating and all of these terms. But at the end of the day, there is still this theme of like thinness.
Thinness is better. Yeah.
You can't really, I don't know, like there's no answer. Like I don't know the answer to this. And I think it's still going to keep coming up. I don't think it's like a solved issue, but I think that the best we could do is like obviously be careful around young girls, what you're saying, what you're putting like value on. Something in my house that I feel very strongly about is not to say like, oh, you're so thin, or like look at your body, or things like that. I don't like to put stress on that.
Yeah.
So that's just like something we could do. But I don't know that as a collective society, I don't think this is going to change.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to agree. We have this similar in our house. I just like, if I hear like a comment on somebody's body in general, like fat, skinny, whatever it is, my kind of way of operating is like, we just don't comment on people's bodies.
Yeah.
Even if you think it's a compliment, we're just not commenting on people's bodies. You can say you look beautiful, but these specifics on how and what you look like and how you look, it's not necessary. We don't need to be commenting and talking about that, especially within our family and our children. And
I do actually think for me, it was really a response to this trauma happening in my life.
yeah.
Because I grew up around very healthy eating patterns.
Mm-hmm.
I watched my mother eat chocolate after meals or cake, or like food was not taken away from me as a kid. It wasn't like that at all. So I think for me, it was definitely like a control sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid and common response to something that happens to you that's so out of your control. And you get to control what you put in your body. So
Yeah.
it becomes this, like you were saying, this like sense of control. And also when you're getting rewarded for it, when you came home and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you look amazing. Keep doing what you're doing. You look thin. It's just like fuel to the fire.
Right. And I wasn't like a big kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was a very young teenager. So
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
just like a lot of mixed messaging, I guess.
And now, what's your approach to food and navigating this in the current times?
It definitely comes up for me. It didn't go away. It still comes up in like my head. Definitely I have a healthier approach now, but I think, I recently had a baby about 8 months ago. And obviously after you have a baby, women want to like lose the baby weight.
Bounce back, as they say.
Totally. And so it definitely comes up now, like if I'm dieting, so to speak, or making an effort to like eat healthier, I'm very intentional about it. And I recognize, that if I don't eat enough, then like it won't be good for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's so interesting because I've had multiple people tell me over the years, which it just shows how prevalent it is in our culture, that you're so lucky that you adopted children because you never had to get pregnant and your body never had to change. Like your body stayed, you got to keep your body. I mean,
Who
like,
are these people? Who are these people?
but like, it just shows like how much it's on our minds and how controlling it is and how much we think about this. And to the point where you're lucky for not having children because your body didn't have to change. I have compassion around people who say that to me, and I have thick skin. Like I don't take it on, but it's just scary when that is what's on people's minds all the time. And yeah, it's so hard. And I think the difference between now and the 90s is that the 90s, we were looking at magazines and you had to buy it. You had to like, now it's just like, you can't escape anything. It's like everything's in your face. And if people were taking a certain shot or were taking a certain medication for weight loss, like nobody knew, right? Like it didn't have to be this huge, like.
Right. Now it's just regular conversation. It's, it's a by the way thing.
Yeah.
I don't only think it's prevalent in the Jewish frum community. I think
Not
it's
at
just
all.
prevalent everywhere.
Everywhere.
And especially like on social media, with young girls.
You know what? It makes me feel a little bit like going through this now that we're kind of back. Well, like you said, it never really left, but it was kind of shadowed or covered over. It made me kind of feel it's like you never believed it. You never really were accepting of everybody's bodies. It was fake because
you were not.
We're now right back to like when all else fails, everybody wants to still be thin.
Totally. Yeah.
Like healthy at every size and like all that stuff that we were being told and we really wanted to embrace and we really hoped that this was where we were headed. It's just like, it wasn't really real. Really, the value underneath it all was still the same. It's like what you said before.
I think people are more careful now not to say things in public than they were in the 90s, when I was growing up. But at the same time, like you see everyone taking Ozempic and Mounjaro and
the message is there.
All of these shots and the message is like, be thin. And you kind of build up where, I hear a lot of in my circles, even women saying like, I need to go back on Ozempic or I need to go on Ozempic. And there's that. But like, of course, we would never tell somebody like, oh, maybe you should lose 20 pounds and then you're likelier to get married. Like we wouldn't say that now,
Right,
but
right.
we're showing all of these shots that we're taking. So it's still like you're saying, I don't really think it ever went away. I
Yeah.
think everyone wanted to make believe like
Hmm.
we're better now, but
Right,
I
right.
don't think so.
Wow. Yeah, it is. It's hard. It's hard being a woman navigating
Yeah,
life these days.
totally.
And always, right? Okay, you went to you went to seminary in Israel?
Yeah,
Was that a significant turning point in your life?
I think so. I think it was two things. I think there was like it was my first time being independent ever in my life. It was my first time living alone. It was my first time in Israel. I thought I would go to Israel. I actually, before I went to seminary, I decided I'm not going. I'm going to school and like that's what I'm going to do, which I probably should have done.
Hmm.
And my friends were telling me like, come, it's our last year. We'll all be together, friends from New York and it'll be fun. And I ended up going with a lot of my friends. And it was a pretty wild year, I would
Hmm.
say. It was more like a party school.
Hmm.
And I think that it was very unhealthy.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't think there was like a lot of true self awareness. And I think kind of things took on like a very bad turn for me.
Wow. What happened when you came back?
When I came back, my parents thought that I should move to New York to date and like get married, which I also thought like I'll never do.
Mm.
And I did. I moved to New York. I moved to New York. I did not have an apartment or a job. Within a week of being there, I had a job, I had an apartment, I had roommates. I had the year in New York and I dated on and off. And then I reached like a peak of like I need to go home
Hmm.
for a little bit. And I went home, and during that time being home is when I met my husband.
Oh, that's interesting. You moved to New York to date and get married. And when you were living in New York, were you continuing on the path you were in seminary?
100%.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
100%. I was also like, I was in the same group of friends. And in Israel, all the teenagers are like out and in town. And I was also like, I was in Jerusalem, I was in Yerushalayim. I could walk the walking distance like within to everything.
Everything. Yeah.
And it was so exciting. It was like I had never been alone. I had never been in Israel. And I was like, there's no parents, there's nobody.
All the freedom and
Yeah, right.
autonomy.
I was
Yeah.
like, there's no authority.
Yeah. No one knows where I am and no one knows what I'm
Right.
doing and no one is asking.
I came to Israel. I remember telling friends, like, I'm going to be focused. I'm going to study. I'm going to learn. Within that first week, I was already like out and about. I
Hmm.
just realized like nobody's here. Like, why?
Hmm.
Nobody's watching me.
Hmm.
So why do I need to like, why would I watch? I would watch myself, you know?
Right. Right.
So yeah, I would say it was a pretty like, 19 to almost 21 were like a very jumbled mix of things. Like on one
Hmm.
hand, I had this dichotomy. On one hand, I would be going to work, dating, and on the other hand, I would be like out with lots of friends and just out till very late, a little bit reckless. It was such a mix of things.
Yeah.
But when I moved to Florida, it was kind of like a wake up call.
Yeah.
I think that I need to settle down. I think that I'm just like, I'm burnt out.
Yeah. Yeah. I gave it my all and now I'm ready to be more grounded.
I'm ready for this adult real world.
So is that what happened? Like, did you meet your husband in middle of this process or did meeting your husband facilitate this process? Like, how did
Yeah.
that happen?
So I was in Florida. I was working at this little law firm in Coral Gables. And I think my best friend at the time was living in Florida. So we were both there for a little bit. Maybe she was there. And then this name came up through a shadchan actually, who was a family friend also. And this name came up, my husband's name. And I said, I'm not really interested right now. I'm not
Hmm.
interested. Like, I just don't feel like it.
Hmm.
And then I found out he was 20 and I was 21 at the time. And I said, why would a 20-year-old guy want to get married? I was
Yeah,
just
it's
like,
young.
I'm not going out with a 20-year-old. He's probably like a baby.
Yeah.
So I said no automatically. And then a family friend called me and she basically convinced me to go out with him. And something a friend told me, she said, you went out with all of these guys and they were so old, quote unquote, at the time, they were like 24.
Right. Right.
They're so much older, but like they don't really have their life together. They're not mature. Who cares about the number? Who cares if he's 20? And like, what's the worst that could happen? You'll go out and like go to a nice place and have a drink or food with somebody. You like people. So I went out and I went out with him on one date. I came home. I said, I'm not really interested. Everyone asked me, why are you not interested? Like I said, he was nice. You're saying all these good things. I said, I'm just like not into it. Then I moved back to New York, actually, during this process.
Oh, wow.
I was already on my way back, which my husband always says he came to Florida to meet me. And then I ended up back in New York, like literally a week later.
Wow.
And I went to this wedding one night. A friend from seminary got married. And I came home, I remember, to my brother's apartment. And I put on pajamas and took a shower, took off the makeup from the wedding. And I get this text message from my husband saying, do you want to go on a drive? And I was like, what drive? Like, I don't want to go on a drive. I don't want to go. I don't want to go out now. I'm not getting dressed.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what? And then I had told like my mother and a friend, and they were like, just go, just see what happens. What do you have to lose? So I said, okay. So I like put on a sweatshirt. My hair was in a messy bun, still wet out of the shower. We went out on a drive, and like the next day I was like, I'm marrying this guy.
Really? So,
yes.
Wow.
So I always tell people, if you're trying to meet somebody, the key is like a zip up, no makeup, and very messy hair.
Right. That's the secret sauce.
That's the secret. Exactly.
And obviously, you connected. Did you have like deep conversation?
Yeah.
What were the stakes were so low that you were just able to
stakes were very low.
Be you and not worry about anything at all?
I think that I had gone out with so many guys.
Yeah.
And I was just, like you're saying, like the stakes were so low. The filter was very much off. I was also very much like, I'm so tired of this. Like, I'm tired of performing. I'm tired of like going to a job and then coming home and going to another job, which is a date. Like, I'm just tired. I'm burnt out.
Yeah.
And we just talked about our families. We went on, I think we drove for like 6 hours that night.
Oh my gosh.
I think
wow.
My parents were like terrified. Maybe I was under a bus or something.
Right.
But yeah, that was it. And I just like knew something like I just got like this knowing like this is it.
I feel like that's a really beautiful story. I think that's, I don't know, just warms the heart. I think that what I feel from this is like the willingness, like at first you're like, no, like what's the point? But then the willingness to just, okay, let me just be open. Let me see what happens. Let me show up in my authentic self.
Right. There was definitely like Hashem was guiding me, and there was somebody making me, go on that drive. And honestly, this is not like a fairy tale. We had a very tumultuous engagement, a very long tumultuous engagement. My parents were in Florida. His parents were in Israel. There's so many family dynamics.
Wow. Okay.
And we thought like by the time we got to our wedding, we were like, oh, we're so prepared for life.
Right. You've like been through it all.
Right. Because we just went through this whole thing, and we're so together and aligned and connected and deep, and we're like ready to take it on. And then of course, like, I sit today and I look back and I like laugh.
Of course. Of course. Well, I actually like brings me to my next question. You went pretty quickly from that party kind of reckless behavior to being married.
Yes.
It sounds like to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that you together kind of went on this healing journey or this path together. Does that make sense?
For sure.
Okay. I want to hear about that.
I always tell people like, everyone knows that cute story, but then I always make sure to tell people like, this is not like you close the book and like, oh, so sweet, like happy ending.
Happily ever after,
right.
Yeah.
I always want them to know like it was very real and gritty, and it was very rocky. We each were going through different things of like maturing, and obviously there's the regular like you're so young and you're
joining lives,
and, right, and throw a baby into the mix, and we don't even know the terms like parenting yourself or like inner child. That didn't exist when we're newly married. So we kind of had to like find our way. And it was very, very rocky. Not so much relationship wise, but just because we were each like figuring out who we
Yeah.
were.
Yeah. And also circumstances, you face
Totally.
difficult circumstances that throw you into, from my experience, I can speak to that. You get thrown into these unexpected circumstances where you have to navigate, and all of a sudden you're navigating these huge life events and life upheavals with a partner. You're both really young. You both have really no context and no idea what you're doing. And you're just kind of thrown into the lion's den. And now what?
Totally. I mean, one of the blessings that we had, which was also really hard, was that my husband's parents were in Israel and my parents were in Florida. So we were like virtually alone, minus relatives, a lot of
Where were
relatives.
you? Did you start off living in New York?
We started living off in Crown Heights in a building that was full of other Minskys.
Really?
My husband's father is one of 16,
Oh, wow.
and everybody's scattered everywhere. And there was a lot of family, but we didn't have parents, immediate family. And there were still like a lot of those voices, like the subconscious messaging of like his father and my mother and all the things. And you're triggered and you're uncomfortable and like you have to navigate your relationship and like you're saying, these big life decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that things really shifted when my husband was offered a job in New York. It started off in Crown Heights, and the people that he worked with had family in New Haven. And we were desperate to move. Like the thought of a house and a backyard was so appealing. And I always said, like, when our son turns 3, like, I'm out of Crown Heights, like, I am out. And he turned 3 that July. By the end of August, we were in New Haven, fully
Oh,
moved.
wow.
And that, like, really, things really turned or took on a different course.
Okay. So what happened?
We moved into like this very cute, small community at the time. Now
Yeah.
it's much, much bigger.
Yeah.
It was this tiny community. It was just very special there.
Like for the better, you're saying, like it
Yes,
took off for the
yes.
better. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think I made like a Shabbos meal for like the first 6 months I lived here.
Oh, wow.
I was so scared. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to have friends. Like, who am I going to like go out with? And there was like this little group of girls, and we did everything together. And it was beautiful. And for the first, I would say, 3 years, from about 2015 to 2018, things were like really just very smooth.
Hmm. And then, because I know
Then,
from some of your writing, you talk about this journey that you took with your husband and family right before COVID, where you started a different layer of healing
oh, yeah.
and a different path. Could you speak to that? Like, I would love to hear how that started and where it took you.
So in December of 2018, it was right before my husband's birthday, and he had this like big life altering moment where he was like, I'm done being cynical. I am going to be like Mr. Positive. And I was like, okay,
Oh,
I'm so
okay.
happy to hear this.
I'm here for this.
Let's go.
Let's go.
And he was like serious, and he started ordering like books, and we very like lightly touched on some deep work.
Yeah. Wait, I have one question
Yeah.
before you continue. Was he very cynical?
Extremely.
Okay.
The most.
The most. Okay.
The most.
Wow.
It was like we were total opposites. I was like, not only is the half glass like full, like it's overflowing.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, there's no glass.
There's no glass. There's
Right.
no water at all.
It's just funny because like he's always been like nice and friendly and whatever, but like very deeply cynical.
Yeah. Okay. So he's like, I'm done being cynical.
Yeah.
Did something like
I don't know. I think it was his birthday coming up.
he
It
was
was
like,
just
I
like,
want to make a change.
yes, he was
Yeah.
also like thinking of making a change work wise.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a lot of things coming to like a head, as they say. And he just had this big moment, like this big awakening moment. And I was like, okay, I'm so on board. And we were actually very aligned during this time where I was like, oh, like I'm all in here too. I also want to figure everything out. Like things are not working in my life.
Mm-hmm.
like internally, things were just not working. I had some very rough experiences after we moved also, and we were very aligned. And then, so 2018, he also decides he's leaving his job. That was like a very comfortable job that probably could have gone on. And he decided he's going to work full time on his startup, which had been brewing for a while, this idea. And I was like, okay. I was also very pregnant at the time with our third child. And we were excited. We were in it. January the following year, so we're in 2019. January, February, I'm talking to family members. I'm like, this is such a good thing. Like, it's going to be amazing. I'm all hyped. Then comes March, and my due date is like, I think it was like March 5th or 4th. And it's March 11th. I am still pregnant and overdue. I think I'm like 41 and a half weeks pregnant at that point. And my husband says, like, you go back to bed. I'm taking the kids to school today. It was one of those days in Connecticut that are very confusing weather-wise. It was like sunny outside, but icy. And he goes to take the kids to school, and I turn around and I go back upstairs, and all of a sudden I hear screaming. My son is banging at the door, who was very little at the time, and he's like, Abba fell, Maya fell, he's on the ice. And I'm like in pajamas and Birkenstocks. I run outside like I'm going to be like the savior.
Overdue, pregnant.
Literally very pregnant. I like slip on the ice. I run over to him. His leg is like stretched out. He's like crying out in pain. There's like blood everywhere. Something does not look right. And then we had like, those moments where like it's just a few seconds, but they feel like very stretched out.
Yeah.
Like
slow motion.
Right. So I pick up the phone, I call 911. They tell me an ambulance is on the way. My husband, like on the ground, is like getting our kids a ride to school. I remember his phone by his ear, literally laying on the ground, which is so him. And I call my mother. I'm like, you were thinking of coming for the birth, but like, I think you should get on a plane today. Like, I had a bad feeling. And I ran inside. The kids go to school. We ride in back-to-back ambulances to the hospital. My knee's like all bloody. It's like there's like somebody took like a scoop and like scooped it out. My husband like has his ankle. We're both like, I remember like we were laughing in the ambulances. We were texting each other like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
We were like in side-by-side stretchers in the hospital.
Oh my God.
I go into like a room in the ER, they pull the curtain, they're doing stitches. I hear my husband like screaming on the other side. I remember they asked me, like a nurse asked me, like, who's your emergency contact? And I'm like,
he's in the other bed.
Like, that's the guy. Like, those reels, like my emergency contact. This was like really.
Yeah.
And I remember a nurse telling me like, oh, he's probably just dramatic, like a dramatic man. Like he probably just like sprained his ankle. And I'm like, no, like I think there's something bad.
Yeah.
He ended up breaking all 3 bones in his ankle. And I ended up with like stitches and later like cellulitis. I got stitched up badly. And we went home. I remember my mother came that night at like, I don't know, like 12:30 a.m. And we were like a mess for the next few days. EMTs were in our house. Family, friends were in our house. There was like, he was bleeding again. He was in so much pain. It was a crazy time. And in the meantime, like I am very pregnant and I need an induction. And my husband needs to have surgery on his ankle. And this has to happen before a new baby. So I'm calling to schedule him surgery, trying to get him in, telling them this crazy story, hope that they'll like get me in. And they get him in. I think it was like a Wednesday or a Thursday. He fell on Monday. I think he ended up Wednesday or Thursday. And they schedule him for surgery. He gets the surgery. And then I go in for my induction. I get an epidural. The baby comes and I go back to my room. And I remember that night, I'm just like sobbing and sobbing. And I'm like, there's something wrong with me. Like maybe I have postpartum blues. I never got them before. Maybe this is what it is. I don't know. Like there's something, I'm not myself. I can't explain it. I have like back pain, like the worst headache of my life. I can't, like, it's indescribable. I think I'm dying because just from my brother, I think I'm having like an aneurysm or something.
Right. Yeah.
I get very scared. And then the next day I find out that I had a spinal leak during my epidural. So then like things start making sense. I started like, oh, the nurse gave me like a cup of pills. I realize now she did that. Like, I don't remember that ever happening, like taking so much medicine after. And they say you can do something called a blood patch, which is like a reverse epidural, or you could go home and hope it goes away.
I've heard that this headache that comes from this
Yeah.
like a botched epidural is horrific.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm not staying another minute in this hospital. Like I just want to go home
Right.
with my baby. I go home, and that Friday, I go to like the baby's first doctor's appointment, and my pediatrician, she looks at me and she's like, "You're not yourself. Like something is off. Like you need to go get that blood patch." And I'm like, "I know, but I have this medicine and it's helping me. Like I'm taking like Tylenol every 2 hours." And then I go home, and it's like getting very close to Shabbos, and I'm just like, I start like breaking down.
Mm.
My mother is like begging me, like, please go in, like, please go do the thing. So I schedule it, and the next available ends up being like Shabbos morning. So I go in. I remember I went in alone. I probably should have called a friend then, but I think it was at my like I don't ask for help era.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Oh,
I
did
went
you
in.
have that era?
Oh, for sure.
Oh.
So I went in, and I remember I was alone. I was like shaking like I've never shaken before. And we do the blood patch, and then eventually things get better, and we start going through this like healing process. My husband and I like physical therapy, and he can't really work on his startup because he's in crutches, and he's making calls from bed. And I can't either really move around so well because I'm in extreme pain from back pain, and we have a
And
new
you just
baby.
had a baby.
Right, there's that.
There's
And
that.
there's two other kids. And my mother's leaving soon, and then my mother-in-law comes to help us, and we're like kind of like children in these moments. And then everyone leaves, and we're just alone. The kids go to school, and during that time, I think was what really started to transform us.
Mm.
We talked about how like if we hadn't started doing the work, we wouldn't even have the mindset to be able to go through this. We started building on that, and we started ordering books like Dr. Joe Dispenza and Louisa Hay and Abram Hicks and Dolores Cannon and
My gosh, I have Louisa Hay's book it lives on my night table.
yeah,
I love that book.
yeah, like Neville, Goddard, all the people. We
Yeah.
order all the books.
Yeah.
We learn about quantum physics and manifestation and like all the things.
Mm-hmm.
Kabbalah, we get really, really into it, and we start like working through a lot.
And this is all through reading
Yeah.
and yourselves, like reading and
And ourselves.
talking
Like,
about it between the two of you.
yeah, we still today are up really late every night talking just about like life and everything.
I love that though.
Communication is a big
Yeah.
thing for us.
Yeah.
Like we don't know how to not communicate.
Well, that's pretty amazing.
So we like start doing all this work, and then comes COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I think 2019 we went that Sukkot to Israel. I think already on the way back, people were already wearing masks on the plane.
That makes
And we
sense.
like started to sense something was up. And by February, like we knew that this thing was coming.
Mm-hmm.
And by March, March 2020, it was like we're going into lockdown.
Yeah.
Like all my friends would talk about their husbands being home and how it's so hard. And I would say, like, we've been doing it for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
Like we've been home together for so
Yeah.
long, which was also such a blessing in preparation for that time.
Yeah.
Like our own little quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't even remember really 2020, such a blur. By 2021, we were already hearing about plant medicine. We stumbled on, I think Michael Pollan is like this conservative New York Times journalist, and he wrote this book called This Is Your Mind on Plants. And then it went to like a docuseries to Netflix, and I remember like watching that, or even later watching that maybe, but it was around this era like people were talking about it.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
a thing coming up in the world, and we were like very fascinated. I was fascinated. Not fascinated enough to try it at the time, but I was like fascinated. And then my husband actually, he was invited to like this ayahuasca circle, and he did that.
He did
And
it.
he
So he
came
did it
home.
first.
He did it first. I think he did
Okay.
it first. We're not exactly sure.
Yeah.
I think he did that first.
Yeah.
And he came home and he was like, it was an incredible experience. Like, I need to go do it again. And I was like very uncomfortable. I was
Mm,
like, no, you shouldn't do it again. You're going to get addicted. This is crazy. I was so nervous that like I'm going to like lose him in some
yeah.
way or
Hmm.
he's going to lose himself.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know anything about it. So it just really scared me and it like triggered a lot inside of me because I had had so many questions like as a teenager and growing up that I always knew were questions, but I always pretended like they're not questions
Right.
that I
Right.
have or I'm
Right.
allowed to have. So I pushed that away. But then the end of 2021, I tried psilocybin, which is like mushrooms. And that was like life changing.
Wow. Okay. So I have so many questions.
I know, I feel like I'm talking a lot, so I'm going to pause. You ask
No.
questions.
Okay. I love it. Okay. So, first of all, the first time you do psilocybin, you're doing it with somebody who knows what they're doing, right?
No,
No, you did
I
it
did not.
yourself.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
So, what happened? Like, and how did
I
you?
I mean, I'm gonna be myself and authentic and honest here. I don't know if this is
Please,
gonna
that's
get
what
me in a little
that's
bit of
what,
trouble,
no, that's what we
but
do here on this podcast.
I want to be just straight up. Yes, I had mushrooms. I decided like YOLO. I did
Yeah.
not know what I was doing. I thought I like knew, but I did not
Yeah.
know. So I just
Wow.
poured myself a handful. I just swallowed it. In fact, that night I was planning on going out. I think it was a Matzeh Shabbos. I planned to go out, and I don't
Yeah.
know how I thought that would like ever end up happening.
Yeah.
And it was a wild experience.
Was it scary?
It was terrifying. I actually hallucinated and I saw myself in three places, and I did not know where I was, like
Which
which
was
one
the
would be.
real, which one was really you?
Yeah. And they always tell
Oh
you,
my
like,
gosh.
don't go look in a bathroom mirror on mushrooms because you'll never see yourself the same way again. And I did. I went to the bathroom. I like saw myself. You're kind of like an observer, but at the same time, you're having this very physical, mind bending experience.
Wow.
So it was very chaotic for me.
Well, I would think you just did it without
I
any.
was, yeah. I remember like opening my phone and writing a whole thing while I was going through this process and reading it back after. But every second feels like you traveled around the world. You like look at the clock and you're like, 2 minutes have passed. Like, when is this going to be over? When is this going to be over? And then you start panicking, like, when is this going to be over? Is it ever going to be over? Am I just going to die now? Like,
Right.
what's going to
Like,
happen?
what's going to happen?
And I started to really, really panic. And I told the people I was with, like, I'm going to pass out. They thought it was like being drunk, I guess. So they were like, maybe
So
you
you
just need some
actually did
air.
go out?
Yes. So I was like, I need some air.
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't go out. They said, maybe you should go outside and like
Oh,
get some
okay.
air of the
So
house.
who were you with when you did this stuff? Friends?
I was with people that I love,
Yeah. Okay.
but not like people that supported me like I needed at that
Okay.
time because
Okay.
they were so like, it was like out of their paid range. Like,
Yeah.
you
They didn't
know,
know what to do. Yeah.
right. So I remember I told them I'm gonna like pass out. They're like, maybe you need some air. And I had steps in our old house, like going down in front of the house, and I tripped down all the steps and I fell flat on my back and I blacked out completely. When I came to, I was like, what just happened? Like, I didn't believe that I fell. And I ended up actually hurting my other knee that
Oh.
I didn't hurt. And during that time, the people I was with were like, you're reliving that experience and you're going through it again somatically. And I'm like, all I know is like, I have a bloody knee right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember writing to myself, I'll know tomorrow that this all happened, that this is real because I'll have a band-aid and a cut. And in the end, it was a beautiful ending. Like, I was able to have this vision of being at my grandmother's funeral, and I was like grieving, and I was talking about the world and Tikkun Olam, and we all like, there were some beautiful moments, but it was very chaotic.
Mm.
After that, you would think I would be like, no,
Never
never
again.
again.
Right.
And I was for a little bit, I was like, never again. Like, I just black out, like it's not for me.
Right.
I ended up doing it a few times after, a few more times, and
Still by
this,
yourself?
No.
Okay.
In a proper setting.
Yeah. I think, do you feel that that's kind of a key and important to have the right setting and the support?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like
Yeah.
nobody should ever try that.
Don't try this at home.
Don't try this at home. Nobody should ever try that.
Yeah.
It was extremely risky, and thank God, like everything was okay.
Hmm.
People say like trippy, but it. It's like far beyond trippy. Like it's very mind bending. You literally feel like you're like in a glass box and you're talking to people, but like nobody could hear you. There's so much going on.
Wow.
And the times after were like very therapeutic, but also scary, also
Hmm.
like rough moments. You know, like I told you last night, I don't promote plant medicine. I'm not one of these people who's like everyone should do it. And maybe
Hmm.
after like my first ayahuasca experience, it was kind of like a low key like obsession.
Hmm.
And I feel like over the next year, like 21 to 22, it was very much a conversation that came up a lot of places on a lot of podcasts, a lot of
Hmm.
Jewish podcasts, and so talked about and so like promoted almost, or people felt very curious about it.
Hmm.
And I definitely promoted it after. But now at the place I'm in, I would say like, you know, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Not everybody needs plant medicine.
That's what I wanted to know. This is what I want to ask about plant medicine because of course I'm a very curious person in general. I like to explore a lot of different things and I'm very curious about plant medicine. I've never done it. I think about it. I don't know what necessarily is holding me back. I think number one, I want to say I don't like to be out of control, but not in like the typical like I'm not a very controlling person. It's just I like to have all my faculties around me. Like I'm not
Yeah.
a drinker. I've never like had a pull towards anything that takes you out of yourself. You know, it's not one of the things that I've been drawn to. But plant medicine has this enticing quality of like how people talk about it is like, wow,
Yeah.
all this healing and, you know, all this like stuff that gets happened and a 10 years of therapy happens in one ayahuasca session or whatever.
Yeah. So
And
I would love to speak to the other side.
yeah. So I want to hear
And
about that. And I guess my question for you is, and in your experience, and I know you have a lot of experience, you're not like a guide or right, but you've done it with people who have been very knowledgeable and do this for a living, right?
yeah.
But sometimes I ask myself, I'm like, just because this is something that is very big right now and has a lot of positive qualities, I wonder, like, does that mean everybody should be or needs to be or will benefit?
So I would love to speak to that.
Yes.
I think that, you know, right after I had even mushroom experiences, I told my parents about it. And I was telling them like they should try it. Like you
Hmm.
need to do this. And they're like,
Hmm.
no, thank you.
Right.
But I was so like, everyone needs this. Then I think a very big deal is that we moved into a new house during COVID.
Okay.
And there was like this crazy time of moving and making all of these decisions and startup land. And it
Wow.
was really an intense time. And I decided like I didn't need any help moving. Like I can do everything alone. I should move everything by myself. Obviously not furniture, but like pack up the
Right.
whole house. And
Right.
like, you know, my husband wanted to hire people because he was so busy with work and his startup. And I was like, no, I got it. It's fine. Friends offered. I was like, no, it's fine. The week we moved into our house, I think was like, I realized like, wow, like what just happened?
Hmm.
Whoa, you have a really big ego, honey. Like
Yeah. Like, why
you
were you refusing all of this help?
I think I grew up in an environment where the women are so capable
Yeah.
and they're so strong and they can do anything and everything and they could totally do everything and anything.
Right.
But there wasn't like that,
Doesn't mean you have to.
right? You know, if I were to tell my mother like I'm doing this all alone, she would be like, "Why? Like you
Hmm.
should go like you should rest, you should do this." But like
Hmm.
it was such a like ingrained thing in my subconscious that like, "Oh, why would I ask for help?" And it ended up being a disaster. Like
Yeah.
that last night of moving, it was pouring rain. We were like schlepping back and forth. It was ridiculous.
Hmm.
So we were doing all of that. And through that time, I was, still really doing a lot of work on myself. And then in 2022, I think I flew into Florida for my brother's yahrzeit dinner. It was this intimate, I mean, it was like 50 people, but intimate dinner at my house with just really immediate family, cousins, and just the adults and some really close friends. Before that night, my father asked me if I would speak. I said, sure, like I'm so healed. Like I got this. Like I could do it without like breaking. Like I'm
Breaking
good.
down. Yeah.
And I wrote this like speech up on my phone and flew to Florida, and it was just me. Went in for the dinner and everyone stops eating and it gets time for me to speak. And I stand up and my hand starts shaking. The phone is like flopping in my hand. I start reading, my voice is cracking. I can't look, like I'm looking all around, like deer in the headlights. I start reading the speech and I start crying. I have mascara all over my face. I like cannot get it together.
Wow.
Shaking like a mess, and it's just silent. And I finish the speech and I sit down, and then there's like a clatter of like sounds, like we better make noise now.
Yeah.
After that speech, there were a lot of people that came up to me and they were like, wow, that was so beautiful and amazing. And I remember that night I went to sleep in my childhood bed in my room, and I was just, I was so broken. I was just like, oh, I thought I finished grieving. Like I did so much journaling. I did all the
Mm-hmm.
walks and the nature and the this and the books. And like, I know all about Joe Dispenza and quantum physics and all the things. Like, why am I still feeling so broken? And not having that feeling of being received in a way that I had like hoped for.
Yeah.
Needing to like give myself a pep talk. You're brave because you were vulnerable. But like at the same time, how sad is that like I need to give myself the pep talk?
Right.
So it was such a emotional night.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was like a game changer for me in the grieving process and like resurfacing this childhood thing. You know what? Like maybe I grieved my brother passing away, but I didn't grieve like what it did to my family. I didn't grieve how it changed relationships. I didn't grieve how it affected me
Your
20 years down the
childhood.
line.
Yeah.
Right. My childhood, all the things. So in that summer of 2022, I went to do ayahuasca. I I was like, I'm here to surrender. I was so ready. Normally, like, I get to, places with new people and I'm like making small talk, conversation. I remember I went, I was like so focused. I'm like, it's just me here. We don't need to do the thing. Like, we can just be, we're here to heal. And I was like all in, and I like purged and I took the 2.5 cups and I had this whole wild experience. I spoke to my brother and I saw all these crazy visions.
Mm.
I went home and I was like, this is indescribable. I finally understood what my husband was talking about a year before.
Right.
And then for like 6 months after that, I would go on drives, like regular, like errands or things or picking up my kids from school. And I would start to go into these like existential rabbit holes, and I would
Mm.
start to panic. I would need to pull over, like I'm having a panic attack.
Wow.
And I would feel like out of control, like I would feel too much.
Yeah.
And it was a lot. And it was really a lot. So people say, it's beautiful and healing, and like it's all of those things. It
Yeah.
truly is. Your mind is not the same after these experiences. It's a whole other layer of seeing the world and understanding, like leaving the world, maybe, in the way that we think we could.
Right.
And also, obviously, the more you know, the more you realize like you don't know
Right.
anything.
Right.
But there's also like that flip side of like, it's a lot of hard nights. It's very confusing. It's very mind bending. Like, there were times a week later where I thought, am I still on the floor during this ayahuasca ceremony? It was very trippy, and I would have crazy thoughts, and I wouldn't know what to do with them.
Wow.
And it was a lot.
Yeah.
I would say one thing that really helped me was breath work. Breath work, I had my first experience right after October 7th, and I was still having like these panicky moments. And Mayor Kay actually came here, and I was like, I need this, so I'm going to do whatever I can to like make sure to organize this so it happens.
Hmm.
And that like really helped me. Also, I felt like that was a psychedelic experience.
Yeah, breath work can be really kind of transcendent if
Totally.
depending on how you do it.
Totally. And then when people would say to me, like, I think, yoga or meditation is like psychedelic, I would say, totally true.
Yeah.
Like, it's totally possible
Yeah.
to have that same experience I had just by being here. And also, like, at the same time, like, people talk about the medicine, it's medicine. And it is. But the real medicine is just living and being in it and feeling the feelings and going through the rough experiences and feeling the discomfort and doing it anyway. All of what we go through in life, that's the medicine. The
Right.
experience is the cleansing thing.
So you mentioned that you don't look at the world the same way, like your brain is different. Like
Yeah.
you peeled away a layer. Can you speak to that
Yeah.
practically? Because for me, like, let's say I've been doing therapy for 11 years and have been working on myself and doing those healing things and showing up, doing the hard stuff, living life, being uncomfortable. I always say, like, I live in discomfort. Like, I am
Yeah.
really at the point in my life where I'm quite comfortable being uncomfortable at this point because every day I am uncomfortable in quite a big way. So I'm curious, what is the practical shift that happens with the medicine, and is it necessary?
I was thinking about this yesterday and I was thinking, is my brain different because of the medicine, because of, the
Right.
psychedelics, or is my brain different because I've been through all of these like wild experiences and really hard experiences the last few years? And I thought, I don't know. But then I
Mm-hmm.
thought, these are psychoactive. I'm drinking a psychoactive drink. I'm taking these magic mushrooms. They do alter your mind. Like science studies have shown, they do alter your mind. So I would
Permanently or
say
temporarily?
they say either temporarily or indefinitely.
Uh-huh.
So I would say, how did it change? I started to ask a lot of questions. I asked questions about religion. I asked questions about death. I spent a lot of time listening to past life regressions. I spent a lot of time thinking about what happens after we leave here. I thought about things differently. And then I also thought, like, do I see everything as a spiritual thing because that's how I am, or is it because of the medicine? But I think it's both.
Right.
I think that's who I am as a person. And before this journey, my husband and I were always seekers.
Yeah.
Like we were always deep thinkers. We were never surface level people.
Yeah.
This wasn't like an awakening, like, oh my gosh, we're completely altered. Like we are
Right.
still, we have the core, we
Yeah.
have our soul of who we are, but this just like it challenges your mind to think about things in a deeper way with a spiritual lens, with empathy. We had a really tough experience like a year and a half ago where we needed to actually say goodbye to people in our life.
Mm-hmm.
We needed to put up some boundaries, and it was really rough. During that time, it was very easy to be like really angry. And at times we really were. But having this new way of thinking allows me to say, like, wow, I feel a lot of empathy for this person. And even another layer is that this neshama, like this soul of this person, chose this for themselves. How hard is that? Like, that's so hard.
Yeah.
This is how this person needs to move through the world.
Yeah. I believe that so fully. Do you think going through these experiences, specifically the plant medicine experiences, did it answer questions, or did you have more questions, or like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, did you all
Yeah.
like coming out of it like, oh my God, now you have all these questions, or did you feel like some of your big life dilemmas were answered and you had clarity?
I felt a lot of clarity, and over the years, I have felt a lot of clarity. I felt like in a very real way, I would get downloads like from Hashem. I would feel like a lot of godly, that moments that can only be described as godly. We experienced crazy miracles in our life that just, they sound like fake stories. I really saw God in a different way. I would say in some ways it gave me more questions in that, I would think about like what happens after we leave here in a very real way till it became like almost crazy, like a wild thing to think about.
Yeah.
And also in a different way, like I would think of it in a peaceful way. This is what we know as life, and we don't really have any answers while we're here until we leave here. And even then, like, we don't know if there's answers.
Right.
I started to listen to these, near-death experiences, which also,
Yeah. My grandfather wrote a book. My grandfather, it was a professor in philosophy and a Harvard PhD, although that's not prestigious anymore, but it used to be.
it was at the time.
Exactly. I mean, he was a professor in philosophy in the University of Western Ontario for over 30 years. And he wrote a book, like a God philosophy, because he was also a chassid and like a Torah observant and religious Jew. And he wrote a book, and one of his chapters is dedicated to near-death experiences. It's super fascinating.
Yeah. I've listened to many at this point.
Mm-hmm.
My husband also, he became like obsessed, and he would listen to like, I don't know, he must have listened to hundreds at this point. But that also gave me some sort of peace in just knowing that like, we're all here as far as we know. This is our only life we've lived and are living right now.
Yeah.
We've lived in probably many past lives, but we're living here now as we know it. And we don't really have a lot of answers, and we don't really know a lot of things. And even what we think we know and what we're sure of, we don't really know.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get these glimmers and like these downloads and these godly moments. And to me, I choose to feel like that is real.
Right. And it's such a gift.
Yeah, it is.
To be able to tap into that. It seems to me like so beautiful as like a almost not full circle, but a little bit of a closure, losing your brother, being so young, not knowing, not understanding. And for you, it sounds like this plant medicine journey is a lot about death and life and what happens after. And do you feel like that was such a driving point of this journey, was finding not the meaning, but the comfort or the understanding as much as you can to what happened to you when you were younger?
Yeah, I feel very much like I always had these questions, even as a kid.
Yeah.
I remember thinking as a kid, like, the world never ends. Like, it just never ends. Like, this keeps going. And like, is this like a loop?
It's so funny. Like, I know I connect and relate to you, but as a kid, I would lay in bed and I wouldn't be able to sleep. And I have such clear memories of I wasn't able to sleep if I was thinking about like existential things. As a young kid, I would think about the word forever. It would trip me up. Like I couldn't sleep. And I'm like, what's forever? What's happening? And it was scary.
Yeah.
And it's so funny to hear you say like such a similar thought process that you had of like, it just keeps going.
Yeah. So I think I always thought about death because I was exposed to it so young with so many like family members passing away.
Yeah.
I would say it gave me comfort, but also it just reinforced my belief that like it's a natural way of life. And it's so hard when somebody passes away because all the people left over here have to like still do life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very difficult. But like the dying person is not in pain.
Yeah.
We don't know where they are. They're on they've left. And that brought me comfort in a strange way, knowing that this is a natural way of life and it's all really the only guarantee while we're here.
Yeah. I always think about this and I'm wondering, as you go through this journey and you are a religious Orthodox Jewish person and reconciling or navigating religion while you're also navigating a healing process that's very energetic, that's very esoteric, that's very sometimes untangible. Did you find it to be confusing and conflicting at times? Have you come to a peaceful harmony in your journey, specifically with religion?
It definitely felt conflicted at times. I felt like I had all of these questions and doubts about things.
Yeah.
I like went in, I asked the questions, and you'll often hear people who have done plant medicine say things like, Moshe Rabbeinu was by a burning bush. Oh, he was by a burning bush and they were having some kind of, psychedelic experience, and they carried the acacia trees, which had DMT in them, through the desert, and they were all like on a trip, on a journey, and the Kohen Gadol with the Ketores and burning the incense and like what was he really burning and all those things. And I really think that this is not old, this plant medicine, and this has been around forever. I don't think it needs to be a challenge to religion.
Yeah.
And I also have in the past year or so, I started learning Shar HaBitachon again with a group of people. And that really impacted me
Mm-hmm.
in a way where I really found a lot of comfort in the Rebbe and in Torah, which I don't remember ever being in a place in my life where I felt connected to the Rebbe. I went to Beis Yaakov my whole life, and
Mm-hmm.
even though my family is very Lubavitch, and I would go to New York for Chaf B'Shvat and have all the friends in Crown Heights and felt very Chabad, I never really knew anything. Like I never knew Hasidic holidays. Like I never really knew what they were about.
Right.
And being part of this learning group, like I felt like a newfound connection to the Rebbe. And that's been giving me a lot of comfort over like the last year is to open an Igris or to open like just letters of the Rebbe book. And I'll do it very often or go to the Ohel like I did yesterday.
Yeah.
That's been like a very big game changer for me. So I don't feel like it's conflicting anymore. I find a lot of comfort. I also find a lot of value in the frum community. I think also as I'm getting older, I recognize, especially like raising a family, there's so much out there. There's so much that children are exposed to. I want them to have good Torah values.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily have to mean one way or the other, or a black hat, or a shaitel. It just has to mean the values are there, the good, important values. And Shabbos and holidays, like they're such a beautiful, amazing thing. And when you look at it, like even with a Kabbalistic lens, we have the most intentional, beautiful religion. We make a bracha before we open our mouth to eat something. How beautiful is that?
Yeah.
Every food has its own bracha. There's
Right.
so many ways to connect and be connected and be spiritual within religion.
100%. I think about that a lot, just the intentionality of it's almost like a privilege. Like we get to navigate life having, like you said, those intentional blessings. Like everything has a purpose, everything has a meaning. And I'm curious if when you peeled back another layer of your brain, which is what you're saying is what you experienced, did that make it possible for you to be more in touch and more in tune with the spirituality of Yiddish Judaism and Yiddishkeit and the meaning and the purpose and the intentionality around it?
Absolutely. I felt like we chose Shabbos again. I felt like
Yeah.
we chose to do things as
Yeah.
opposed to just doing them. I felt like, wow, like how lucky are we? How many other religions do you know that like tell you you have to make family time this week? Everyone needs to sit by the dinner table, and have a meal and wash for bread and hear Kiddush. And it's beautiful. And you have even like,
Connect with the divine, right?
right. And you have
Be
like a
something outside of yourself.
right. And like you have in your Chabad house, like, when the first time somebody comes to a Shabbos meal, they're like, they don't say like,
Hmm.
this was horrible. They're like,
Yeah.
how
Oh my
beautiful.
gosh. How do you get to do this every week?
Right. And
Yeah.
even like in my husband's work, we would have people in our life that had nothing to do with Judaism or that weren't Jewish. And they would say, this community is truly amazing. Like, you're so lucky to have a community. We don't
Yeah.
have that. When somebody has a baby, when somebody is sick, when somebody is moving, when somebody's going through a hard time, you have a group of people who are going to show up for you. And
Yeah.
it's very rare.
Yeah. This is a question that I'm sure you've heard me speak about before. And I'm like always asking people now on my guests, what's your relationship like with God? What was it like? What is it like now? I'm just so curious.
I would say like I thought I had a relationship with God.
Yeah.
I thought I was like very deep and philosophical, so that was God.
Hmm.
And like I had that going for me and it was fine. But now when you're forced to turn to God in like real times of need and in times of like deep gratitude where you're exposed to like a miracle or the miracle of childbirth or something beautiful happening in your life and you're feeling any sort of heightened emotion, you feel God in a different type of way. And that's the like feeling I strive for regularly, like in the mundane. Something that I've started asking myself lately in moments is like, I ask myself, like, what does God want for me
Mm-hmm.
right now in this moment?
Yep.
So if my baby's crying, I say, like, God wants me to be with my baby. Like, that must be what God wants
Yeah.
for me right now. So I have to be here.
Yeah.
And I ask, how could I be a vessel for God? And if it's, leading, I just started doing these in-person words that heal circles where like everyone writes and we share out loud. And I say, like, even if I feel like it's weird and I don't really want to do it and I don't know how it's going to go, I have the idea. Hashem is giving me this idea, and all I need to do is show up. That's literally all you need to do, is be the vessel. So that's like a new thing. That's very much part of my daily life. And like even yesterday, trying to bring God into everything
Yeah. Bringing God into your mundane day to day
and talking
life.
to
Yeah.
God. And like, I literally mean out loud in your car, whether it's saying like, why are you doing this to me? Or why is this happening? Or like, I recognize all the beautiful things in my life. Thank you so much.
Mm.
Like yesterday, I went to my brother's grave and I spoke to him out loud and I just like talked. And like, you always hear that, you hear people say that often, but you're like, do they really do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
I always thought that, like, that's super weird. Like, do people really do that? But yeah, just it's very therapeutic. It's very real. It's very raw. And that's really, at this point in my life, that's what I want. I want like real, vulnerable. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful. I know that another thing, changing course a little bit, and I'm sure it's all connected and how you deal with and process and make decisions. But I know you spoke to a little bit about your son and him not living at home anymore and going to a equestrian school, which I can relate to. I've had my daughter who was on the podcast. We talked about that with her experience. And then I even had my son who at a very young age, at 8 years old, went to a therapeutic diagnostic program for 2 months. So not for an extended amount of time, but for 2 months. But it was very intense and very painful and very difficult. Do you feel comfortable speaking to that a little bit on what that's like
Yeah.
and navigating? To me, what I find kindred spirits in is just showing up in a scenario, in a situation which you did not expect or you thought would turn out differently, and having to pivot and really go out of, like we said, your comfort zone, and to really block out the noise and the judgment and the stigmas to really understand and know what's best for your child to your ability, because sometimes your child doesn't agree
Mhm.
with what's best, what you
Yeah.
made the decision with, but you're
Mhm.
doing your best as the parent with the information that you have in the moment to really set them up for success and to get what they need. So how was that for you?
Yeah. And so first, he's not in an equestrian school. He's
Okay.
he's in I guess I would call it trying to think of the word, it's having a block, but
Yeah.
he's in the school
Yeah.
and it's a few hours away. And it's been a journey, I would say. I tried to give a little in a way that would be, respectful to him and without giving away too much.
Yeah.
But he had a very hard time within the school system in many different ways. And he was very unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
And all we want for our children is to be happy. And that's like my base. That will always be my baseline. I want my child to be happy, period. Like there's no other sentences after that. And it was a lot to navigate. It was after my last baby, which was about 8 months ago. And it was actually before I had the baby. It started at the end of the year, at the end of the school year, where we sensed that we were going to need to make some
Some
kind of
changes.
decision.
Mm-hmm.
And we were thrown into like this whole journey before and after this new baby of, just so many calls and investigating and what is going to be the best place for him, what is needed for him, how will he be happy, what really matters to us. And there's so much outside noise in these scenarios. There's all kinds of people that have opinions, whether it's family members or friends or community members, well meaning previous teachers or past principals. Everyone means well. And obviously, everyone wants a child to be happy,
Yeah.
but nobody really has the answers.
Right.
People have a lot of opinions, but they don't really have the solution. So we ended up making this very big decision to send him away for the year. It's actually it's kind of still hard to talk about because we're still going through it.
Yeah.
I was very surprised after that post. I had many people reach out to me from all walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend reach out to me who I haven't spoken to in like maybe 10 years, saying that, she's going through something with her son and she doesn't know what to do. And could I tell her more? Or people just asking, if you ever want to share more, I'm here. Where is he at school?
Yeah.
All kinds of questions. And they were hard to answer because
Yeah.
I'm not at a point where I could say like, oh, like we made the perfect decision.
Right. There's no like before, middle, after, right? You're still in it.
We're
Yeah.
still in the thick of it and in a very real way.
Yeah.
Even today, my husband went to drive my son back to his school, and there's still things and there's still questions and there's still like questions about the future. And I don't have answers. And the best thing I could say is that I don't have answers. It's that everything led us to send him to this school. Hashem navigated things so that we would send him here. So it must have been for something. It must be for a reason, and it must have been the right decision.
You know what? I hear you and I feel everything that you're saying in such a real way, because there are, even afterwards, like I can say like, I'm on the other side of my kids being away. And even afterwards, you still don't know for sure if it was the best and most perfect choice for them. All you can know is that you made these choices with the purest intentions and with the information that you have and with the knowledge that you have and the best you can do. And yeah, it's very hard to say like best thing I ever did, and sometimes you get feedback and it's difficult. And then you second guess your choices and you're like, did I do the best thing? But what you said is the thing that I always come back to is that Hashem leads you to the choices that you make. Doesn't mean you can't learn, like we make mistakes. I'm not saying you never learn from mistakes and you would do things differently. But at the end of the day, these were the events that were meant to happen. These were the places that you are meant to be, where your child's meant to be. And you have to believe that, or else you can send yourself into such a spin and such a spiral. For my son in specific, it wasn't a therapeutic boarding school. It was more of like a evaluation process of like when nobody has answers and what's the next step? What do you do? It's like a prerequisite. It's like, what do you do? And we were at that point where that needed to happen. And at the same time, he came home and it didn't get better. It wasn't like we all of a sudden had the answers and all of a sudden things were jiving and things were working. Like I can tell you, it probably got a little worse. And so I look back and I'm like, why? Like, why did he go? Why did we send him? Why did we do that? And all I can say is that it needed to happen. And this was part of our journey. This was part of his journey. I can't tell you exactly what, why, and how. There are things I can point to, that skills that he learned and things that, our family needed, that I can point to, like little things, but not these big, like, wow, like this was the answer, And I always have to come back to being like, I believe, whether I see it or not, that this was a piece of his very long journey. And this piece needed to be there. Do I not necessarily know why or how or what? No. But I am a person of faith. I do believe that whatever happens is orchestrated by God with our free choice, but also is meant to be that way, or else it wouldn't be that way.
Exactly. Like you're saying, it's still something that you go through and there's still questions and things aren't perfect. I can tell you, like, even this afternoon, I was in it. So I'm definitely not through it. I definitely can't say like I'm on the other side. Like we're still very much going through it. And with that, like you're a parent to other children and you have your own things going on in your life and you need to plan for things. And there's summer coming up and there's a new school year. And
that's what I feel. I feel like there's endless decisions to make. There's endless, thank God, if you have multiple children with multiple really intense needs, it gets so overwhelming. Like for me, summer is one of the most overwhelming times because my kids don't fit into like the regular camps or the regular this or the regular that. And then you start to, for me, I have to stop myself when I start to go like in the future. And I'm like, well, what's going to be,
Yeah.
where are they going here? And what are they going to do there? And what happens when they're this age? And what happens? And then it's like a whole spiral, because everything is on the back of each other. Like, well, if they don't do this now, then they're not going to be able to do this later. And then it becomes this whole thing. And I have to constantly rein myself back in and take it one step at a time, because otherwise I don't feel like I'd survive.
Totally. Totally. I mean, that's so relatable, and that's so hard.
Yeah.
And so relatable. Every kid has needs. Even the kid who seems to be cruising has big needs that they come
Sometimes
out.
their needs get the most overlooked because they're
100%, because they're so okay.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's definitely a lot. And the best we could do is, when I was a little bit younger, I would hear people say like, oh, you just need to you need to pray for your children. Like, you need to daven for your children. And I would never like really understand it. And now like I fully understand, like, yes, you just need prayer in your life. Like
100%.
just
You get to the point where you realize, I think it's like an age or a sense of experience or maturity or whatever. Like you get to a certain age where you're like, actually, the only thing that I really can do is pray or say their Tehillim, say their Psalm.
Yeah.
Because everything else you don't really have control over. And really, to me, sometimes I'm like, that's the only thing I can do, obviously, and be a parent and do all the things that you need to do. But as far as like, where do you have control over? Not very much. I feel like as I get older as a parent and my kids get older, I just keep realizing more and more and more how little I actually have control over.
Yeah.
Basically nothing besides my own behaviors.
Exactly. And that's the grounding thing that we could do in those moments is like, what could we control right now? Like you could control, go eat lunch, go take a breath outside, make yourself a coffee. Like that's what you could control in those moments. And I think like I had a theme in my life where grief was like the theme. And now in my life, I see I'm heading into like this theme where parenting is a very central thing and change is a very central thing. I think that probably happens as you near 40.
Yeah.
Where things start changing. So I'm definitely understanding things in a different way.
Yeah. What do you find to be supportive to you in these moments, in these hard decision-making process? Like, what do you find is supportive, grounding, necessary for you to be okay, even when you're not okay?
I think one of the biggest things is being honest with the people that you love. So my husband, first and foremost, communicating and telling him what's on my mind, no matter what it is, no matter how uncomfortable or whatever conversation it's going to lead to. Literally, we're very honest with each other. That's a very big thing for us. And also being able to say, like, I need to go on a drive now for 10 minutes. It's for everyone's benefit that I leave this house and go on a drive or go on a walk outside, making sure to do things that are good for my body, like feeding myself and walking in nature, being in nature, things that are grounding in that way. And also being very vulnerable and open with the people you love in like a way of like asking for help. I went from an extreme of not asking for anything, and God was like, ha, 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 like, I will show you how to ask for help.
Right. You need to ask for help.
Yes. And in the past few years, I've experienced moments where like I had no choice but to ask for help. And instead of being ashamed, which I would have been then, or feeling guilty or all the things, or resentful that like I have to ask for help, I choose to just be like humbled.
Yeah.
And say like, wow, it's beautiful that I have people in my life I could turn to for this, for that.
I think there's something really important about having to ask for help, and it changes you, and it also makes you, right, like you said, humble and understand, be more empathetic and more at a greater service for when people ask you for help. You can't be super altruistic and helpful to other people if you've never had to ask for help, is my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to know what it feels like to really be able to show up for another person. I think you need to have been humbled enough to need help yourself.
Oh, yeah. And I would say maybe before COVID, I was in a stage in my life where if somebody asked me like, hey, how are you? Or you pass somebody on the street or you have a little conversation, I would say like, oh, everything's great.
Mm-hmm.
And like today, if I'm having a bad day and somebody asked me that, I would say, yeah, it's been really rough. Like
Yeah.
it's rough. Today is rough.
Rough day. Oh
Yes.
yeah.
And I think people are more about that now.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think that. But yeah, just authenticity is just it's like the top for me in my life. It's the top when I'm like choosing friends or bringing new people into my life or even with already existing relationships.
Right.
It's like a top thing for me,
Yeah.
for sure.
And has writing been a therapeutic tool for you, or is it mostly a career?
Not only has writing been a therapeutic thing for me, it's been a therapeutic thing for my husband, who I would say 5 years ago probably would never sit down and didn't even know the idea of what journaling was. But for him, it's been so healing. For me, it's been so healing. People in my life talk about how healing it is.
Because you facilitate other people.
I led one of
writing.
these circles, and like I was told after how healing it was.
Yeah.
People told me wild, really impactful things.
Yeah.
I really believe in it. And it's kind of how my mind works.
Right. But you also write as a career, right? Have you always been a writer from a young age?
Yeah, I think so. I think that I first discovered it, I think I was very young. I wrote like this poem for a girl like an Israeli girl who came to my class and didn't speak English. And then I think in 5th grade, I wrote this like poem or a few lines in my 5th grade yearbook. And I was like, like I feel good. Like something clicks here.
Do you find it amazing that you can take what you're very passionate about and that's actually something really therapeutic and healing for you and be able to have a career with that?
Yeah, I mean, it is amazing, but I say like it's not me, it's godly. And everyone who's a creative, an artist, a musician, and every person who's getting into some sort of creative flow, there is something that takes over you. And what that is, it's just you and God co-creating.
Mm-hmm.
There's not just me when I'm creating anything or writing something. It's very much like me, Hashem together.
Yeah, I love that. That's so beautiful. I think that's a perfect way to wrap up. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. This was so nice.
I loved hearing everything that you had to share. And I think it's so beautiful that you were open and able to share your experiences, your many different experiences throughout life, which I know that you will continue to have. Can't wait to have you back on in 5 years and tell us where you're at.
Oh boy.
But
I hope I have so many wonderful, amazing things to say.
I have no doubt about it. I have no doubt about it.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Take care.
Okay, guys, this was such a good one. First of all, I want you to know that Mimi leads healing writing circles. I didn't mention it in the bio. I forgot. But as I was preparing, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot to say that she leads healing writing circles. And after hearing, I think it's good that I'm mentioning it now because like after hearing her and hearing who she is and how she shows up in the world and how she expresses herself, I think you're going to want to join a writing circle. I definitely want to. But we talk about all sorts of things. What I found super interesting and fun to explore in this conversation was plant medicine. Now, obviously, we hear a lot about plant medicine. I'm not the first person to talk about it by far. I'm probably like the last person to talk about it. But the reason why I loved having this conversation with Mimi is because she's not coming here as like a professional or having a certain agenda. She was so gracious to share her personal experience in a very authentic way, the ups, the downs. And I think a lot of times we hear plant medicine in one of two narratives. Either it's amazing, life-changing, the best thing that ever happened, good, 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 good. Or we hear like, oh my gosh, scary, it was detrimental, it is unhealthy, it was bad, right? I think we very rarely hear a nuanced conversation around plant medicine. And I love that we got to do that. And I love that Mimi shared, like, yeah, actually it was life-changing for her, but there were ramifications and it was scary. And she had to like work through a lot of things. And it wasn't just magic at first sight. And I think it's an art that we're losing. I talk about this all the time. It's nothing new. I think it's an art that we're losing to have a nuanced conversation, have a conversation that's not black and white, have context, have experiences. Like it doesn't have to be good or bad, black and white. And I think especially around plant medicine, it's so important. I think we hear so much hype or we hear one of two narratives, like I said before, and it's not that way. Life is not that way. Life is not black and white. Most experiences that we experience aren't black and white. I mean, most things I experience in life have like so many facets and so many sides. Like on the one hand, it could be very difficult. And on the other hand, it was your biggest growth point. On one hand, it was tragic and painful. On the other hand, it was beautiful, right? So we need to really lean into this. Part of our reality and part of being human is that everything that we experience is layered and nuanced and has dimension, and it's not easily or shouldn't be easily put in a box. And I love that at the end we talked about like what actually is the medicine. What is the medicine? The medicine is living life. The medicine is finding the thing for you that expands you, that opens your mind. Is it breath work? Is it learning? Is it exercise? Is it plant medicine? Is it whatever? I mean, and it can be all of those things at the same time. Just be awake, be open, find the thing that's going to make you live presently, embodied, in flow. That is what we're here to do. And everyone will find it in a different way. And I love what Mimi said. It's just like living. Living is the medicine. Find the way that you can live and show up fully you, fully present, fully open-hearted. And I think it's something that we talk about a lot on my platforms is this idea of being open, of not being quick to judgment, of not being quick to condone or condemn. Hear somebody out, think about something before you respond impulsively. And I trying to do that more and more. I have very strong opinions and I can be very impulsive in the way that I think. And we all have our inherent judgments that we all think we don't have, but we do. So just recognize them, see them, know them, push yourself out of your comfort zone every once in a while. And it brings me to kind of very similarly to what I wrote on Substack this week about taking up space, right? Everything's always connected. You can connect everything. But I wrote about taking up space in the sense of, can you be fully you? Do you feel comfortable having boundaries? Do you feel comfortable voicing your opinion? Do you feel comfortable saying no? It's not like anything else. It's not black and white. I think we all have ways in which we feel very comfortable and we have ways in which we struggle. I'm not necessarily a people pleaser, but I'd like to be accommodating. Like I like to say yes. I like to be accommodating. I don't like to rock the boat in like practicality. I like to rock the boat. Like I like to say things that rock the boat, but I don't like to like, if someone's like inviting me as a guest speaker, right? I'm going to be as accommodating as I possibly can. I'll sleep anywhere, feed me anything, except I'm gluten-free. But that's what I mean about being very accommodating. Like I just want to be easy. I don't want to take up extra space. I don't want to be difficult. I don't want to be demanding. I was raised that way. It's like you just be the yes, say yes, be easygoing. Don't be problematic. And I get where that value comes from. But I think as we get older, we have to assert ourselves sometimes. And sometimes we do have to respect our needs, because a lot of times when you are super accommodating, what happens is that you get resentful. And that doesn't help anybody or anything. And that's what I've learned over the years is it doesn't help to be accommodating and say yes all the time if at the end of the day, you're going to have resentments. So that's kind of where I was going with that is how do you find the place that you are being true to what your needs are and being true to who you are. And then you really can show up in the best possible authentic way. Because when we show up accommodating and easygoing, but in our hearts there's resentment, it comes out in the end, right? And it's been my journey to really lean into that. And maybe it's uncomfortable to be like, I really, this is what I need to be a really successful speaker. These are the things that would help me. And it's uncomfortable, but at the end of the day, I'm happier, they're happier, I do a better job. So, this is just one example. That was on the top of my head. And I think it all comes down to truly living and truly embracing who you are, living with flow and living with intention and living with an open heart. Because the more open heart that you can be, the better it will be received, right? What comes from the heart goes from the heart. So there's no shortcut to that. And then I casually also refer to as space, also physical space. It's also part of it. I'm a person that needs a lot of physical space, and I thrive on physical space. And I find that when I am confined to a small space, I am not the best version of myself. So I actually posted on Instagram. I was like, do you feel you need physical space? And do you feel like you give yourself the mental, emotional space? It all kind of goes together. And so many people responded in like, oh my gosh, I need space, or I live in New York and I don't have space and it's wearing on me. Space is a real thing. Physical space is a real thing. So if you find yourself living in a big city or in an apartment building, and does it grate on you? If it doesn't, you're a hero. But if it does, make sure you get some space. Montana taught me how much I value space and how important it is for me. I could speak for myself. I think a lot of people would agree, but I really, really value space, and especially space in nature. So just questions to ask yourself, to reflect on. If you find yourself getting irritable, maybe the answer is, did you have any personal space today? Did you have any personal space? I think especially as mothers, that is not a given. We don't often get personal space. And sometimes we find that we're feeling suffocated. Well, maybe it's time to have some personal space. And it doesn't have to be for a week. It doesn't have to be for a day. It could be for 20 minutes. Find some personal space. And I think our emotional space benefits from physical space. Anyway, that is my little brain dump for today. Thank you for being here. And just remember, if you rate and review and follow, it is extremely helpful. Okay, so this podcast does not happen by itself. The magic takes a whole group of amazing people, and I want to tell you who those people are. So obviously, I'm your host, Chavie. Our producer and creative director is Eli Ben-Chion. He keeps me on my toes. He makes sure that I just keep growing and am on point and don't miss a beat. He's the best. Audio is edited and mixed by Reed Seeley. Also, unbelievable. He's so cool, calm, and collected. You kind of need that working with me. And the music, which is beautiful, is by Basia Schechter and Shaul Magid. And this is totally unexpected.